Hi, welcome to Splash Page. I am Andrew, and we just got to watch the Season 1 finale of Amazon's Invincible. And since there's no new Invincible to watch just yet, I figured we could dive a little deeper into some of the themes and characters of the show. Today, I want to talk about the relationship between the Guardians of the Globe and Omni Man. This video is going to have some spoilers for Episode 1 of Amazon's Invincible and some hints as to what might happen in Episode 8. So if you haven't watched the show yet, I suggest you do so now. Or don't, I don't really care. You've been warned. So let's talk about Amazon's Invincible. Today I'm going to focus only on the two fights that bookend the first episode, that both introduce and show the demise of the Guardians of the Globe. They're both beautifully done, and watching the episode, even after knowing what was coming, I was shocked. In the comic book, we get an issue introducing the Guardians individually, then one page killing them all off. We never get to see them fight together. Each Guardian gets, on average, a fifth of a page for their death scene, which is perfectly fine for a comic book. But the show was able to do so much more. We're introduced to the Guardians as a team. We get to see them fight together and how they would handle a situation in real time. And with very little dialogue, we get to feel like we really know each of the Guardians individually and how they differ from each other. And then, at the end of the episode, we get to see exactly how Omni Man was able to take on and defeat 7 of the world's greatest heroes at once.
Say, did you ever kill a giant?
I killed 7 with one blow!
7!
So let's see what Invincible's creator and writer of the first episode, Robert Kirkman, did here to make the Guardians' introduction and deaths so much more memorable. So let's say it's a beautiful day in Washington, D.C., just outside the White House. 2 security guards have a run-of-the-mill conversation when suddenly the ground begins to shake. The Mauler Twins pop up out of the cement, and the anti-supervillain guns on top of the White House turn on them to no effect. There's a very heroic and very idiotic attempt at stopping the Maulers by our security guard friend. I mean, come on, man. They withstood 4 heavy caliber automatic weapons put in place for this exact reason, like they were taking a shower with bad water pressure. Maybe he shouldn't have skipped that superhuman evasion training. He shoots one of them with the equivalent of a paintball gun. What are you thinking? Although he did manage to take out an eye. Lucky for him, that was just enough time for the Guardians to show up, and damn did they make an entrance. Dropping right out of the sun into a tight cluster, perfect for a photo op.
Yeah. Look, I'm not even shooting it. It's insane.
First thing we find out is the Immortal is in charge here. He sends Red Rush off to focus on evac. Everyone here has their job to do, and they do it well. Red Rush starts running people out of the way. War Woman sends the military in to help with evacuating civilians. Outside the gates, Darkwing does the same with the tourists. Green Ghost saves a few school children from falling rock before heading inside to be on president duty. This team knows that in order to fight the bad guys, they don't want any possible hostages or unnecessary targets standing around. Point 1 for the Guardian strategy: clear the area of anyone they don't want to punch in the head. Less clutter. Very Marie Kondo. It's only after the citizens are cleared out of the way that the team begins focusing on the main threat, the 2 giant blue men trying to break into the White House. While Red Rush, Darkwing, and Green Ghost were clearing out the onlookers, the Immortal, War Woman, Martian Man, and Aquaris were holding off the Maulers. Immortal and War Woman both go one-on-one with a Mauler, but Martian Man and Aquaris team up to slam a tank into a Mauler with a 1-2 punch of strength and the awesome power of seawater. There was no discussing this tactic. It seems the 2 of them could almost read each other's minds, as if they'd done this a million times before and understood each other's strategies. Once they're through the wall though, they do what everyone else has been doing since the start and start looking for stragglers. I'm gonna be honest, At this point of the fight, things aren't looking great for the good guys. They've succeeded in evacuating most of the civilians, but things are looking bleak for Darkwing, as he slowly gets crushed by a tank. It's amazing how often tanks have been used in this fight, though never as actual tanks, like with giant shells and stuff. They're mostly kind of used as hammers. This is when Omni Man, our last gleaming hope, appears to help save the day. And this is where we really start to see how good the Guardians work together versus how they work with Omni Man, who often helps but is something of an outsider. Omni Man saves Darkwing, but he doesn't get the thank you he's looking for. Instead, he gets some rubble cleared from behind him, and Darkwing off in the distance, already looking for his next target. Darkwing isn't worried about thanking his teammates for helping him. Why would he? There's work to be done. This introduction to Omni Man immediately sets him apart with a small, passive-aggressive, "You're welcome." He's here to help, but he isn't part of the team. Back at the White House wall, Immortal clears the area and the last of the soldiers by using a unique tactic that fits in perfectly with his character. He flings the soldiers up into the air to get them clear of danger, knowing he'll be able to fly up and catch them in a minute. Omni Man sees this and flies up to catch the falling soldiers. So far, so good. But when one is left falling, Immortal has to decide in a split second if he thinks Omni Man will be there to catch him. With a heavy, double-fisted punch, he heaves the Mauler Twin he was fighting to the ground and leaves the fight to save the last of the soldiers. He calls out in true superhero fashion, just as Omni Man swoops in and snatches the soldier away from him, almost as if to prove a point. You can hear the tinge of annoyance in his voice. He feels the Immortal should have trusted him more. We see the Immortal was willing to trust that Omni Man wouldn't let any of the soldiers plummet to their deaths, but his trust isn't complete, and rather than focus on the Mauler Twin in front of him, he left the battle prematurely. If I had to bet, I'd probably put money down that if it was the Green Ghost or War Woman or Darkwing grabbing the falling people, Immortal would have put his full focus on the fight and known that things would get taken care of. And if he did have to step in and help, it would have been a less adversarial situation. It's these little moments that really tell the whole story. Those soldiers were the last of the bystanders, and the team regroups, this time with Omni Man hovering over their shoulder, for one last quick photo shoot before making their final attack.
Ignore this. Ignore me doing this.
Here we see teamwork at its best. They've done this before, and it shows. The Immortal and War Woman, the heavy hitters, start punching, while Red Rush takes one of the Maulers off their feet. They use their combined powers to put the Maulers into a neat pile so Green Ghost can sink them halfway into the cement, neutralizing their legs, before Martian Man wraps them up for the Red Rush to begin pummeling at full speed. Aquaris jumps in to knock them on their asses with another mighty blast of seawater, and Darkwing attaches his explosives to their backs. No need for us to wait around for the cops. We know the Maulers have been taken care of and there's nothing left to worry about. The Guardians of the Globe, plus Omni Man, have done their job once again. So let's recap. The Guardians show up, spread out, everyone works to clear the non-combatants while keeping the main enemy busy. Then everyone throws their combined weight at the problem at once, using tried and true techniques that best show off their skills and accentuate the skills of their teammates. This is a well-oiled machine. Let's jump over to the end of the episode to see what happens when that well-oiled machine forgets to get their oil checked because they went over 100. Okay, let's see what happens when that well-oiled machine breaks down. Yeah, that's better. The Guardians work so well because they trust one another. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. They take direction well. So what happens when they're completely caught off guard? Well, this. This fight started off okay for the Guardians. Omni Man comes rushing in without warning, but Red Rush, with his super fast perception, is able to push the Immortal out of the way to safety, putting Omni Man right in the middle of a circle of heroes. who are now confused and scared. Look at everyone's faces here. You could already guess who's gonna win this fight. The Guardians all have a look of shock, rightly so, but Omni Man stands cool and collected. He is prepared for this. He's already started by going after the strongest of them, the Immortal. But just because that plan didn't work out perfectly doesn't mean Omni Man hasn't thought of everything here. He's been thinking about this for a long time. The Guardians immediately go on the offensive, one at a time, which is their first mistake. War Woman swings her giant, I'm gonna guess that's called a mace? Morningstar. I feel like Morningstars usually have spikes. I'm really not sure what to call this thing, but I found this picture of a Turkish mace that looks kinda similar, so let's go with mace. They immediately go on the offensive with War Woman swinging her giant mace, and Omni Man ducking out of the way easily. Then Darkwing flings some explosives his way and drops from the ceiling, followed by a blast of fearsome seawater. Omni Man goes after Aquaris for the kill, but Red Rush does his thing. He's moving around, taking people out of harm's way. Once the area is cleared, he runs in, taking pot shots at Omni, on his own, until he's caught. And while the rest of the Guardians stand around watching, Omni Man bursts Red Rush's head like a watermelon. The shock and surprise the Guardians show is not, well, surprising. It's this moment the rest of the Guardians realize Omni Man is out for blood. They're not as calm and collected as they were in the fight against the Maulers, and Martian Man runs in screaming in anger to do his thing, restraint. He wraps himself around Omni Man, and the Immortal and War Woman take Red Rush's job and bloody Omni Man's nose. But they're not on their game. They forgot one piece of the puzzle, Green Ghost. She didn't trap Omni Man's legs in the ground first because Martian Man jumped his turn out of anger. So Omni Man still has his legs and is able to break free of Martian Man's grasp, no problem. And one-on-one, they are all outmatched by Omni Man. He puts down War Woman, then Darkwing attacks. But he's way out of his league too, and he's cleaned up easily. Is cleaned up really the word I want to use here? And used as a decoy, thrown at Green Ghost to keep her in tangible form. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thought. This was a chess move, and it ends in mate for Green Ghost, who is quickly taken off the board. To use a chess metaphor I barely understand. Then Aquaris shoots another wave of ferocious seawater, but Omni Man is ready, using the body of Green Ghost as a shield. It's only now, after having lost 3 of the 7 Guardians, that the remaining heroes are able to take a breath and realize what's at stake. While Aquaris holds Omni Man in place with his indomitable gust of seawater, War Woman clocks him in the head with her mace. If Martian Man had rushed in to restrain right then and there, they would have still had a chance, but he doesn't, and his delay is directly responsible for the death of Aquaris. Now all is lost. Aquaris can't hold him off with the robust power of seawater. Green Ghost isn't there to put him in the ground and keep him in place. In anger, Martian Man finally rushes in to restrain Omni Man, and the Immortal and War Woman take over Red Rush's job, since he's not around, to pummel Omni Man in the face. Sadly, it's too little too late. The Maulers didn't know how to neutralize Martian Man, but like I said before, Omni Man came to this fight prepared. He takes the hits to his face in stride while working on taking out the next biggest threat at the moment, the creature currently restraining him. Next, he ducks a punch from the Immortal and puts his fist through the Immortal's chest before snapping War Woman's neck quickly thereafter. This fight is done. Just a moment to clean things up. But Omni Man ain't talking, not even now. No reason to let the Immortal know his reasons, because the war is never over. At that, Omni Man collapses, but he'll be fine. No better way to cover your tracks than to be an amazing liar. Maybe I'll discuss that in another video. So what do we see here? 2 fights, 2 very different outcomes. Is Omni Man stronger than the Mauler Twins? Of course. But the twins were no joke either, and the Guardians were able to mop him up pretty easily after clearing out all the bystanders. So what was the difference between round 1 and round 2? I think it's pretty clear. The fight with the Maulers was just another day at work. The team wasn't playing around, but there was never any doubt they'd win in the end. They'd work together without even thinking about it like they'd done a million times before. Then we jump to the end of the episode. Here, the Guardians are caught off guard. They're nervous. They don't know what to expect. And instead of working together, they attack Omni Man one at a time, with no real plan in mind. They're scared and they're scrambling, fighting a much stronger opponent who has thought all this out for a very long time. Omni Man's calm, he's breathing steadily even as he's being pummeled, methodically taking out one player at a time and not wasting any energy on the next step before he's finished with the first. Here, the Guardians are both outmatched and outplanned, and once you learn Omni Man's reasoning for taking out the Guardians, you know that this was no spur-of-the-moment decision for him. He's been planning this basically forever. Omni Man's entire relationship with the Guardians has been a classic example of keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. So after 2 rounds, the Guardians are 1-1 with not much of a prospect for a round 3. But let's save that hypothetical encounter for another time. And besides, unless Immortal wakes up from the dead with a cool head on his shoulders and takes a few moments to plot his revenge, I don't see that going too well either. Luckily though for Omni Man, Immortal still has no idea why Omni Man did what he did. So what do you think? Was my analysis correct? Or was it flawlessly accurate? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if there's any other topics you'd be interested in hearing about. I'm thinking of doing a video on one of my favorite characters, Damien Darkblood, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Please like, subscribe, comment, and again, thanks for watching. See you next time.